Well, I took two tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won two club championships, not even senior, two regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag.
Well, jibes, barbs, and the social media explosion. We've seen it all from this very morning. It is late at night in the United States of America. The first election debate between President Biden and former President Donald Trump has concluded. And there's a lot that's going on social media, on the internet. We'll talk about all of that, but there have been challenges also. Let's see whether if there is going to be anything in the near future when it comes to how the Democrats are going to look at a presidential debate. They changed the rules and they made sure that it was a very civilized debate, but was it a success for Democrats? Lenka White joins me, a journalist from New York. Lenka, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global. A very important debate, but very early on in the campaign, there's a lot to go. And the Democrats already feared that the Americans would be looking at how Biden fared during the debate, and should they be actually looking at him as the presidential candidate?
Thank you so much. It's great to see you. So I would personally say that it was definitely a shocking debate. We didn't expect to be this sort of surprise of Biden's performance so huge. Everyone thought that, okay, he will stumble a little bit, he will be incoherent from time to time. But this was very upsetting. It was really like you're looking at a very old person who is not able to think clearly anymore. And it was sad. It was actually truly sad to look at him. So as we are watching right now, the analysis ongoing by, for example, CNN, MSNBC, which are the left-leaning American media, they are suggesting that Democrats are now in panic mode, that they don't want to see Biden anymore as the main candidate because he's simply not able to carry on. He probably is not definitely able to carry on next 4 years. And who knows if this presidential campaign he's able to finish. So it seems they are definitely trying to find a way how to get out of this. I would also like to point out that CNN just published a poll what its viewers thought of the debate, and 66% of viewers thought that Trump won, while 34 argued that Biden.
Right. Lenka, let's just repeat that because our audience would like to know about the poll. Now, CNN has just, like Lenka said, conducted a poll on viewership and who they thought really won the debate. 66% have voted for Trump. That's quite telling, Lenka. Let's just go through what has happened on social media and the internet, because we know that you've been following this, and all the Democrat-leaning, Democrat-supporting media houses, including newspapers, New York Times, Washington Post, have called this debate a complete disaster for President Biden. Although, when we got visuals of him from the debate after debate party, it seems like he was quite confident, so was Jill Biden. But they're just putting up a brave front over here, it seems.
Biden, everyone thought that Biden will look like at the State of the Union, where he was extremely energized. One could even say a little bit aggressive, assertive. He spoke half an hour very clearly, sharp. And as you know, Trump's team even called for drug tests, that Biden will go through a drug test because there is suspicion that they gave him some stimulant such as Adderall. So Trump's team was calling for that prior to this debate. Biden didn't do that. And everyone was expecting he will be sort of again the same shape, sort of wild, very strong. But no, it was the opposite. He was sort of very mellow, very slow. They didn't shake hands at the beginning, and he had a hard time answering and arguing with Trump. It was very clear. And as you mentioned, the left-leaning media already had enough time to bash him for it. CNN sort of changed their opinion on him 180 after that. It was almost shocking. Politico called him that he's toast. That's the exact words they use. So it doesn't look very good.
It doesn't look very good, Lenka. I don't want to sound harsh over here, but there's also a lot of conversation that's happening on how Biden was looking, about his facial features, his expressions, the fact that that his facial feature, that he could not move that his expressions were not, he was expressionless, that his expressions weren't changing a lot. That what has he done to his face? Was that an attempt to make him look younger, or maybe not as old as he is? Is that something that you're also picking up?
Definitely. I personally think that more than what they were saying, because we almost knew what they are going to say. Trump is going to say that he's the best. Biden is going to say that Trump is a convicted felon. So people more or less knew what they are going to say, but I personally think everyone was sort of focusing on Biden and his health and his shape. So as you are saying, his facial expressions definitely, he most of the time look like that. And, it's like you
Sorry.
can do it once, but if you are like this the whole debate, people start questioning why is that. Everybody keeps pointing at his pupils. Are they extended or are they in normal shape? And I think these shouldn't be the questions people are thinking when you are
Exactly.
looking at your future president of one of the biggest countries in the world.
Exactly, Lenka. These are not the questions that should have been part of our discourse and our conversation when we're talking about the first presidential debate. But so be it. That's the conversation we are going to have. How he looks, how he carried himself, how many times he looked lost, Lenka. He did have moments where he seemed like he was not in the room.
Definitely. And Trump called him out. Trump said, I don't know what he's saying, and I don't think he knows what he's saying. I even
Absolutely.
think that Trump was trying to hold back. He could attack him much more on his, sort of personal expressions. He could do that, but the Trump's team actually said prior to the debate that they will be trying to hold back, that they will try to stay on points, on facts, and not to make personal attacks. And I think he did great actually. He was sort of reserved. He didn't go against him that hard as he could, because it was very sad to
But
look
could
at
he?
his
Yes, it,
his
it was.
performance.
It was really sad. But then on the other hand, you see, uh, was Trump being quite nice to Biden by not taking him on the way he normally does? I mean, remember the last presidential election? He was aggressive. He was shameless. He was harsh. But this presidential debate, do you think Trump was rather decent with Biden, because there were moments he could have actually taken him on, and while there's this rule of muting the button, he could have still done his bit of interjections. He really didn't do that with Biden.
That's a great point. As you mentioned, the debates which were in 2020, they were much more aggressive. Trump is jumping into Biden's what he's saying. He's interrupting him all the time. He was interrupting him all the time. He's the kind of person who owns the room and doesn't hold back just because someone else is talking. It's clear whenever he is having some debate. But this time, the rules which Biden's campaign set out was that the mic will be off when one candidate is talking, and there will be exact set time for each candidate. So Trump, could not, or he could, but it would be hard to hear him. So it was already this kind of setup from the beginning. And maybe people actually expected, okay, Trump will not be able to stay calm and quiet. He will keep jumping in, and it would look bad. It would look bad if he would keep doing that. So I personally think that the Trump team just thought, okay, let's be calm, let's be sharp, let Biden talk, and he will actually make mistakes on his own. We don't need to even go after him that much.
Well, Lenka, I know, it's very late there in New York, but please just stay on with me a little more because this is a fun conversation we are having. Now, in terms of the environment that has been created, do you think after all that was done to ensure that Biden has space, is in a comfort zone, he still turned out to be quite a disaster for the Democrats? Because this was all
Yes,
done in a way for
sorry.
him. This was done all this was done in a way for President Biden, not for Trump. CNN, if anything, would have liked to really take him on, but the environment was created, and it was such a civilized one that it was actually rather boring. The debate was for President Trump, or former President, sorry, for President Biden.
Definitely, you have a great point. Everyone thought that it will help Biden, that the moderators will be much more helpful. The set out rules. Biden's team didn't want any audience because they know that the Trump's audience is very loud, very passionate. So there was no audience. There were only journalists. They picked CNN, and Trump agreed, even though CNN was at least up to now supporting Biden. Then the issue with the microphones, Biden said, okay, I need to have space to talk. Trump can't be interrupting me. So they settled on that. And even Biden chose where he's coming in. He was coming from the right side while Trump was coming from the left side to the podium. So Biden chose that as well. And despite all this, it didn't go well at all. And
It
I would
didn't
like
go well.
also to point out that the main moderators, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, they are actually long-term anti-Trump
Exactly.
people. And especially Jake Tapper, he called him Hitler. He called his way of ruling the country Nazi Germany, and other very bad words, which shouldn't be compared to such historical tragedy. So they definitely didn't try to make it easy for him, yet it went so badly.
Okay. Lenka, we will talk about some of the issues that were discussed. Now, there is a lot of fact checking that will happen later, but this time around, interestingly, the fact check will not happen just for Trump. It is going to happen for Biden as well. There's some statements that he made which are now going to be fact checked. We'll get to that, but before that, let me just play out what happened at the after debate party in Atlanta. uh, Joe Biden looking very confident with the First Lady. And they actually seem to be quite happy with with the president's performance. So let's just take a look at that, and then I come back to you, Lenka.
What did Trump do? What did Trump do?
Okay, Lenka, so that's Jill Biden actually saying, what did Trump do? Lie. Do you think this narrative can take the Democrats forward? Is this the narrative on which they can build an entire campaign? Because we've heard Trump, everybody knows that he does need to be fact checked every now and again. But should this have been the narrative alone?
I personally think that the most important part is that the president can think clearly and is able to keep some kind of cognitive flow of thoughts that he's able to act, because President of the United States have a lot of power. He can start a war, he can fund a war. So I think rule number one is that he is able to actually think, which, Biden is having issues with. Of course, lying is very bad. If someone is lying, it's of course a bad trait. Although we could argue, like, what politician is not sometimes lying, or what person actually sometimes doesn't by mistake or even intentionally lies. It happens. Although of course it's important on what topics and how much. But I don't think that that's an sort of winning argument for the whole Biden's campaign, that they can build it on that. Trump is also accusing Biden of lying. So they are accusing each other. And, what else is he going to say?
Okay, but they did celebrate and they are celebrating, Lenka. It doesn't seem like it has moved Biden, but it has shaken the Democrats completely. Now, going back to what we're seeing on the internet, uh, is there a room? I'll come to the subjects, but is there a room, before I come to that, is there a room where there could be a conversation that the Democrats now will have to have on age, on the fact that he's not completely there, and that's why there could be a conversation on maybe replacing him, or that's just out of the, it's just not a possibility?
You see a lot of comments on this on the social media, as you mentioned, that Democrats are in panic mode and that they are talking about replacing Biden. And there have been already talks prior to this debate, although it was not that strong as it is right now. We were hearing names like Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom, who is the Californian governor. And I think that they will definitely try to find a way, because US American voters are not going to want such a president. But on the other hand, I would like to point out that changing a candidate at this stage is not that easy as it might look, because Biden already won all the Democratic primaries. He's already sort of settled.
Actually.
So he would actually need to want to be exchanged, on step down. So some of the politicians are actually calling on him to step down. So the process is not that easy. It's possible, but it's not that easy.
Right. Now, a few statements and issues. Where do you think the two leaders fared? How do you think they fared? I'm sorry, on the issues. There are a few things that I'd like to point out. Now, these are glaring mistakes, Lenka. He spoke about Medicare, and the faux pas over here, the goof up was, he said, on the wiping out of Medicare completely. And Donald Trump said, well, I agree with him. The other one was that he said, when I became president, that there was no inflation. He basically meant to say that during his presidency, but it was almost like when he inherited the presidency, there was no inflation. Another huge mistake. And then finally, in Russia-Ukraine war, Trump saying that should he become president, he will settle the war.
Yes, Trump said that he would settle the war prior to getting back to the White House. He said it already multiple times, even prior to this debate. Of course, he talks big. He always talks like, I'm the best. I'm going to settle that down. Everyone loves me. Um, yes, the question is how, right? Like, what are the concrete steps he's going to take? And he rarely mentions, for example, as you said, he said he will settle the Ukrainian conflict. This conflict is really in bad shape. And he never said, okay, how I will settle the conflict, what steps
Exactly.
am I going to take? So he talks big, but he doesn't give you the details about how he's going to do it, which I personally think would be a great idea, because it would be much more credible. Um, Although with his previous presidency, he also had these big words, and then, some of them he fulfilled, some of them he did not. I think it's to be expected with every candidate, but definitely he is overly exaggerating his ideas.
And what about the statements that President Biden made? Would that be something that he will have to carry on as baggage through his campaign now?
President Biden was a little bit confused. I think his main point was also, as you mentioned, the economy, that Trump put the economy in a very bad shape and that he took it already in a bad shape, that he actually improved the economy, that Trump didn't want to tax anyone. Um, for average American citizen, economy is number one priority when they are deciding who they are going to vote. So it definitely, everyone is listening very carefully. But there are also data or, talks about Biden actually didn't do that great job with the economy either. So I think one has to take it with a grain of salt what they are saying and always go and check, what is actual reality.
Okay, and final word from you. Uh, Speaking from here in New Delhi, in India, we are nobody to say that age should be a factor in any election. At least America has a cap, a two-term cap, but there is no. But the fact is that while age should not be a factor, being alert, being sound should certainly be a factor. And that certainly is not something that has been accounted for in this presidential election. Look at the visuals, Lenka. We've never seen two men, and this is not me being ageist or anything, two men looking the way they are, talking the way they are, especially President Biden, uh, and vying for the most powerful seat in the world.
Yes, age should not be an issue, and I know you are not an ageist. This is already such an extreme point that everyone has to basically talk about it, and we are not discriminating any of them. One of the questions the moderators ask, it was actually about
Right.
their age. How do they, imagine going forward? Because Biden is 81, Trump is 78. There's not a big difference between them. If you think about it, the numbers are really close. And we also had different candidates before. We had Nikki Haley, which was the Republican candidate. She was actually really strongly arguing for putting a cap on age. And many of her supporters like Nikki Haley because she is like 30 years younger, 40 years younger. So as was Vivek. And for example, also, Robert Kennedy, who is the independent candidate, he's also younger. And some of his voters are saying, okay, we like him. One of the reasons is because he's younger, he can think clearly, he can talk. So definitely age is a question, and many voters are complaining that both of them are actually old.
All right, Lenka, on that note, thank you so much for joining us over here. It was not a very interesting debate, but certainly has brought out a lot of interesting conversation on what US should look forward to, what the world should look forward to, because whoever comes to that position, whoever becomes the president of the United States of America does affect the world, does affect change in a lot of parts, in many parts of the world. So we'll have to wait and see. This is only the first presidential debate, very early on, although. But there are many more to come, and we'll keep getting Lenka on to give us her perspective on what's happening. Lenka, thank you so much for joining us over here on India Today Global. But before I leave you, let's just go back to what the challenge that we saw between Trump and Biden was. And there are many such face-offs that we'll be putting forth in just a while from now. So watch that, enjoy, and we'll come back.
Well, I took two tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.